The various officials, both civil and military, stood before the steps and shouted, "Bravo!" Taizong could not have been more pleased, and he told the master of the law to keep his cassock on and the staff in his hands. 2 regiments of honor guards were ordered to accompany him along with many other officials. They left the gate of the court and proceeded on the main streets toward the temple, and the whole entourage gave the impression that a Zhuangyun was making a tour of the city. The procession was a stirring sight indeed. The merchants and tradesmen in the city of Chang'an, the princes and noblemen, the men of ink and letters, the grown men and the little girls, they all vied to get a good view. Everyone exclaimed, "What a priest! He is truly a living arhat descended to earth, a live bodhisattva coming to the world." Shenzong went right to the temple where he was met by all the monks leaving their seats. The moment they saw him wearing that cassock and holding the staff, they all said that King K. Itagarba had arrived. Everyone bowed to him and waited on him left and right. Going up to the main hall, Shenzong lighted incense to honor the Buddha, after which he spoke of the emperor's favor to the multitude. Thereafter, each went back to his assigned seat, and soon the fiery orb sank westward. So it was. Sunset, mist hid trees and grasses. The capital's first chimes rang out. Zheng zheng they struck thrice, and human traffic ceased. Streets back and front soon grew quiet, though lights burned bright at first temple. The lone village was hush and mute. The monk focused to tend the sutras still. Time to smelt demons, to nurse his spirit. Time went by like the snapping of fingers, and the formal celebration of the Grand Mass on the 7th day was to take place. Shenzong presented the Tang Emperor with a memorial, inviting him to raise the incense. News of these good works was circulating throughout the empire. Upon receiving the notice, Taizong sent for his carriage and led many of his officials, both civil and military, as well as his relatives and the ladies of the court, to the temple. All the people of the city, young and old, nobles and commoners, went along also to hear the preaching. At the same time, the Bodhisattva said to Mach A. "Today is the formal celebration of the Grand Mass, the first 7th of 7 such occasions. It's about time for you and me to join the crowd. First, we want to see how the Mass is going. Second, we want to find out whether Gold Cicada is worthy of my treasures. And third, we can discover what division of Buddhism he is preaching about." The 2 of them thereupon went to the temple. And so it is that affinity will help old comrades meet, as perfection returns to this holy seat. As they walked inside the temple to look around, they discovered that such a place in the capital of a great nation indeed surpassed the Vara, or even the Jetavana garden of the Sravasti. It was truly a lofty temple of Katardizga, resounding with divine music and Buddhist chants. Our Bodhisattva went directly to the side of the platform of many treasures, and beheld a form truly resembling the enlightened gold cicada. The poem says, "All things were pure, with not a spot of dust. Shenzong of the great law sat high on stage. Lost souls, redeemed, approached the place unseen. The city's highborn came to hear the law. You give when time's ripe, this intense far-reaching. You die as you please, the canon doors open." As they heard him rehearse the boundless law, young and old were glad and comforted. Another poem says, "Since she made a tour of this holy site, she met a friend unlike all other men. They spoke of the present and of countless things, of merit and trial in this world of dust. The cloud of law extends to shroud the hills. The net of truth spread wide to fill all space. Asses your lives and return to good thoughts. For heaven's grace is rife as falling blooms." On the platform, that master of the law recited for a while the Sutra of Life and Deliverance for the Dead. He then lectured for a while on the Heavenly Treasure Chronicle for Peace in the Nation, after which he preached for a while on the Scroll on Merit and Self-Cultivation. The Bodhisattva drew near and thumped her hands on the platform, calling out in a loud voice, "Hey, monk! You only know how to talk about the teachings of the little vehicle. Don't you know anything about the great vehicle? When Shenzong heard this question, he was filled with delight. He turned and leapt down from the platform, raised his hands, and saluted the Bodhisattva, saying, "Venerable teacher, please pardon your pupil for much disrespect. I only know that the priests who came before me all talk about the teachings of the little vehicle. I have no idea what the great vehicle teaches. The doctrines of your little vehicle," said the Bodhisattva, "cannot save the damned by leading them up to heaven. They can only mislead and confuse mortals. I have in my possession Tripitaka, 3 collections of the great vehicle laws of Buddha, which are able to send the lost to heaven, to deliver the afflicted from their sufferings, to fashion ageless bodies, and to break the cycles of coming and going." As they were speaking, the officer in charge of incense and the inspection of halls reported to the emperor. The master was just in the process of lecturing on the wondrous law when he was pulled down by 2 scabby mendicants, babbling some kind of nonsense. The king ordered them to be arrested, and the 2 monks were taken by many people and pushed into the hall in the rear. When the monk saw Taizong, she neither raised her hands nor made a bow. Instead, she lifted her face and said, "What do you want of me, your majesty?" Recognizing her, the Tang emperor said, "Aren't you the monk who brought us the cassock the other day?" "I am," said the Bodhisattva. "If you have come to listen to the lecture," said Taizong, "you may as well take some vegetarian food. Why indulge in this wanton discussion with our master and disturb the lecture hall, delaying our religious service?" "What that master of yours was lecturing on," said the Bodhisattva, "happens to be the teachings of the little vehicle, which cannot lead the lost up to heaven. In my possession is the Tripitaka, the great vehicle law of Buddha, which is able to save the damned, deliver the afflicted, and fashion the indestructible body." Delighted, Taizong asked eagerly, "Where is your great vehicle law of Buddha?" "At the place of our Lord, Tathagata," said the Bodhisattva, "in the great temple of Thunderclap, located in India of the great western heaven. It can untie the knot of 100 enmities. It can dispel unexpected misfortunes. Can you remember any of it?" said Taizong. "Certainly," said the Bodhisattva. Taizong was overjoyed and said, "Let the master lead this monk to the platform to begin a lecture at once." Our Bodhisattva led Mak-a and flew up onto the high platform. She then trod on the hallowed clouds to rise up into the air and revealed her true salvific form, holding the pure vase with the willow branch. At her left stood the virile figure of Mak-a carrying the rod. The Tang emperor was so overcome that he bowed to the sky and worshipped, as civil and military officials all knelt on the ground and burned incense. Throughout the temple, there was not one of the monks, nuns, Taoists, secular persons, scholars, craftsmen, and merchants who did not bow down and exclaim, "Dear Bodhisattva! Dear Bodhisattva! We have a song as a testimony." They saw only auspicious mist in diffusion, and Dharmakaya veiled by holy light. In the bright air of ninefold heaven, a lady immortal appeared. That Bodhisattva wore on her head a cap, fastened by leaves of gold, and set with flowers of jade, with tassels of dangling pearls, all aglow with golden light. On her body she had a robe of fine blue silk, lightly colored, and simply fretted by circling dragons and soaring phoenixes. Down in front was hung a pair of fragrant girdle jade, which glowed with the moon and danced with the wind, overlaid with precious pearls and with imperial jade. Around her waist was tied an embroidered velvet skirt of iceworm silk and piped in gold, in which she topped the colored clouds and crossed the jasper sea. Before her she led a cockatoo with red beak and yellow plumes, which had roamed the eastern ocean and throughout the world to foster deeds of mercy and filial piety. She held in her hands a grace-dispensing and world-sustaining precious vase, in which was planted a twig of pliant willow that could moisten the blue sky and sweep aside all evil, all clinging fog and smoke. Her jade rings joined embroidered loops. Gold lotus grew beneath her feet. For 3 days oft she came and went. This very Guanshuyin who saves from pain and woe. So pleased by the vision was Tang Taizong that he forgot about his empire. So enthralled were the civil and military officials that they completely ignored court etiquette. Everyone was chanting, Namo Bodhisattva Guanshuyin. Taizong at once gave the order for a skilled painter to sketch the true form of the Bodhisattva. No sooner had he spoken than a certain Wu Daozu was selected, who could portray gods and sages and was a master of the noble perspective and lofty vision. This man, in fact, was the one who would later paint the portraits of meritorious officials in the Lingyan Tower. Immediately he opened up his magnificent brush to record the true form. The hallowed clouds of the Bodhisattva gradually drifted away, and in a little while the golden light disappeared. From midair came floating down a slip of paper on which were plainly written several lines in the style of the Gatha. We greet the great ruler of Tang. With scripts most sublime of the West. The way, 108,000 miles. This Mahayana seek earnestly. These books, when they reach your fair state, can redeem damned spirits from hell. If someone is willing to go, he'll become a Buddha of gold.